You want to start it then?
I just want to see how much of this is going to get into the video.
Just that part right
I
there.
just love the background.
Yeah, I'm really locked in on that background. Very serene, very Bob Rossi.
The light actually looks better, too.
I think that's an authentic Monet.
It's not.
I think it is.
It's not. It's not little dots all over the
Authentic.
place. Anyway, welcome to a calm, cool, and collected episode of Effin' Movie Podcast.
That's a terrible way to start.
I'm your host today, Dylan Camacho.
It does look like a Bob
This is
Ross
terrible.
episode.
We're not NPR.
Why would we be in PR? I don't know what
The
that
way you're talking is NPR
Oh,
talk.
NPR. Okay, I heard NPR, like public relations. And I was like, what the fuck does public relations have to do with talking calmly?
I don't know what
We're
you're talking
sponsored.
about.
Sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts, the number one source of your caffeine morning. If you, like me, can't get up early,
They tag us.
We're also sponsored by a yard sale that my
Get
mom went
it
to.
out of here. Love these videos. Welcome to the podcast.
You just spit
I'm
everywhere
your
when you
host.
did that. Look, camera, there's spit on the table.
It'll be all right.
The movie survived.
We haven't had COVID for months. It's okay. Anyway, we're your hosts. You know who we are. We're talking about It Follows today. Guys, talk about It Follows. What's it about?
Whoa, I wasn't ready for that. Who's doing the summary this time? How about you do the summary?
Sexually transmitted haunting.
Yeah. that's
Okay,
I'm being-
Nathan's got the summary as
In
usual.
4 words or less, sexually transmitted haunting. Yeah, I'll flesh it out because this movie kind of needs that context, I think, on this one. So, all right, yeah, sexually transmitted haunting, yes. But essentially what happens is you have sex with a person, boom, you got an STD. But instead of, like, it burns to pee or, your vagina gets all weird, you just have a naked person, sometimes naked, that chases around. I say chases, walks after you very slowly and can change forms. And they're gonna kill you, or they want to kill you. I don't know. Sometimes you just outrun them.
They ultimately kill you, but as we see in one of the
beach scene.
so there's the beach scene.
Oh, the bedroom scene.
Well, the opening beach scene where the girl
Oh,
is
that
like
one. Yeah.
broken. Like that's one death scene.
Yeah.
The only other death scene is
The mother humping. Yeah.
the mother looking like she's just banging her son to death.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird, like, sexual undertone that's very much intentionally built into the film for, like, its, I guess, preventative measures for, like, STD, low-key understanding, like, message and stuff like that, which, cool, we'll get into that. But, yeah, I mean, essentially, this is just a very psychological, like, it's gonna get you eventually, and it's just like, oh my god, I'm so exhausted, I gotta pass it on. But then you're always in fear of, oh no, has it caught the other person, and then is it on me? And then there's that moment where it's like that, which I guess we just kind of get into it, and then we'll catch on it.
Yeah, well, like, it plays into, like, the morality of it all, too, because, like, there's parts in this movie that they're very immoral, and then there's parts where you're like, you're never gonna get rid of it, so the only actual, like...
The only right thing to do is to die.
Well, but that doesn't even help, because then it
Then
falls
it
back
just
to the
goes
next
back to-
person,
Well,
but, like...
but
yeah, but-
eventually it's got to end.
I
Yeah.
don't know, because, like, if... it's almost like a play on, like, don't have sex, but then at the same time, it's like, have all the sex you want, because, like, whenever they went, or she got onto the boat, like, from the beach, like, that or the prostitution scene at the end is, like, probably the best case scenario, because if you do that with, like, 3 people, or you do it with someone who regularly does that, it's not catching anybody, right?
I mean,
Especially
yes.
if you tell them, maybe.
Yes and no, but think about how quickly that line runs out even on the prostitutes. The prostitute
I didn't
bangs a
catch
lot
that.
of people, sure, but then it's only going to go to the first person that she bangs
Yeah.
right after. And
Oh,
then that
that's true.
pleb, I
Yeah.
mean, that guy's
Yeah.
going to get, like, easy.
Yeah, like none of these people are going to know what's coming.
But
Right.
hear me out.
Especially the prostitute.
The only people that could see this haunting or this being
Oh.
was people who were a part of this lineup, right? So, in a way, like, if they could have gotten in front of it and done the right thing, if they weren't a bunch of teenagers that made a lot of bad choices during
Yeah.
this whole movie, if everyone does it with everyone, you could probably have everyone see it. You know what I mean? It'd be an impossible.
What good would that do?
I'm with Nathan.
Yeah, it doesn't solve the problem.
It's like awareness, right? It's like
But
awareness.
they didn't
Yeah.
stop it.
No, not
Yeah.
in any measure.
At any point, like, you probably just need to have a big workshop that says, all right, guys, you know what, we're all here. That thing right there. Who is it? I don't remember anymore. Like,
Well, that plus, like, if you guys are saying that it never stops, which it doesn't,
nope,
No.
never stops.
if everyone is at that point, what's it called? Where you
Herd
just don't have
immunity?
sex.
Are you you're thinking
Absence.
Absent.
Oh.
If everyone's just absent, it's still not gonna help. I mean, it's still very much going back.
No, I think
to
if you're
the-
absent, like if everybody's abstinent, like if you give it to me and like I just don't
I
have sex
would.
with anybody, shut up. It's not that point. But like if like I'm just abstinent and then like you just don't like if you just don't have sex, like I'm pretty sure it just goes away. But I mean they're not gonna do that.
Shit
I think
just goes away.
you all can correct me if I'm wrong because I'm very kind of fuzzy on the details. But I think that like the way it like perpetuates itself is like I guess the first person like told the other person that like if you have sex with somebody, it'll go away for you.
Oh yeah, but it'll come back
But,
for you
like,
once
it
that
doesn't.
person catches
But
it.
it's,
Yeah,
all
exactly.
in the details,
It's
right? So like
you're not really getting rid of it. You're just kind of queuing up the list a little
You're-
further away.
you are doing your due diligence and just getting it off of your hands, right? Like that's kind of how I see this movie, and I think that it's good that it brings up this kind of debate because like you're fucked if you do, literally. You're
Bingo.
fucked if you don't. I guess you're not fucked if you don't.
I mean,
But if you're caught up like her, she didn't want that, obviously. I mean, she
Yeah.
didn't know what the package was gonna hold for her. But yeah, this movie I think is really cool in that whole aspect of just like, well, crap, like this is a problem. But like you said earlier, it's burns, it's rashes, it's this. This movie kind of brings it out a little bit more and puts it a little bit, higher of a threat level than anything like that. But
it's probably a higher level threat for STDs comparatively. These ones may
yeah.
kill you over
So
time.
you
but
all are
this would be
focused
fine.
more on just the allegory of it being about STD.
Oh, I'm just in it because that's where the
that's
discussion is.
more
No,
what-
there's so much
yeah.
more into this movie aside from the allegory of that. Once we take that apart, and then we just go into the horror movie aspect of it. I wanna talk about why I enjoyed this movie so much. Is that I think traditionally it does a lot of things. Not to be contrary to other horror movies, but it does the opposite of what is usually like the worst parts of horror movies. So I said during our last review that one of the bigger things that is usually like the big womp of horror movies is the reveal of whatever is supposed to be killing people things, right? Like the suspense leading up to it is like peak horror, and then reveal is like, oh, it's a penis. Like it's usually kind of how it feels. This one is, I mean, the suspense is there. I wouldn't say it's super, super heavy suspense, but there are moments whenever the reveal comes and you're like, oh, well, that's interesting. I don't know what to do with this naked person. And then it's a different person. But not only does it play it smart and it keeps the reveal being like one of these reoccurring things that never feels like it's super dull, especially, I want to go right to one of my favorite reveals. The hallway one with the tall dude. Holy shit.
Frankenstein,
Yeah.
Frankenstein came out that door.
Whenever the thing breaks into the girl's house for the first time, and then like I love that there's a moment because it's like, yeah, it could be anybody, it could do anything, and then they intentionally shoot it like they're gonna be playing like Among Us again with us, right? Like the kid's like, I'm gonna go upstairs really quickly, and he goes up, and then you're like, shit, I don't know when the next
Yeah.
person coming back if that's gonna be like a good person
Yeah.
or not, and for even like a little bit they just tease that with tension. And they don't make that an ongoing thing too, which I liked because I think for a lot they could just be like playing up the thing all over again, right?
Yeah.
But they're like, no, we want this to be its own movie. We want the reveals to be like, all right, yeah, we get it. It's just a person walking towards you menacingly, but it's gonna feel intimidating the entire time. And man,
When there's an 8-foot dude in a 7-foot tall
Dude,
hallway.
I gasped the first time I saw that. Like the second time I knew it was coming and it wasn't as scary, but I remember thinking like, holy shit! Like,
He had to duck under the door frame.
Yeah.
But like, what I thought was cool too about this was like every single person that thing was, she recognized. Like it was someone of her past.
mm-hmm.
Even like the guy in the pool at the end, like he found out later like that was her father. The little kid that was crawling through the little door was her fucking pervert neighbor.
Yeah,
I don't know who the
Yeah.
tall guy was. That was the only one.
that.
But
yeah.
he did say at some point, sometimes it's loved ones, sometimes you don't recognize them. That's what makes it scary. So maybe that was like her ultimate fear.
Right.
Was this gargantuan man.
He was my fear. Oh my god! Like, I don't blame her. That's in the same boat with me.
Yeah, it did a lot of slow reveals of like the nature of what follows.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first it's like, oh, it's just a person walking. They're naked.
Who's gonna be scared of
whatever.
Sometimes they're not
Um,
naked. It's like,
yeah.
Pick a
It's an
lane.
old lady now.
Yeah.
And at first, like, all right, nobody else sees them, whatever. Even in that scene in the hallway, like, the girl standing with it behind her, you didn't feel like she was actually in danger because up until that point, you're like, well, I mean,
It doesn't touch anybody.
It doesn't seem to touch anybody. It doesn't
Yeah.
seem to affect anybody. Nobody sees it except for the person who's in danger. Until later on, it's like throwing them around.
Sure, you can them like off to the corners and stuff.
And that's also the first point at which it reveals, like, it's not necessarily always going to look clearly human. Because, like, the dark eyes and stuff made for a much more menacing character in that moment in the darkness of that hallway.
Like, it felt like whenever it needed to throw away the charades, it would just turn into, like, all right, let's just be the fucking big scariest thing I can be, or like let's turn into this little kid so I can get through this hole that I just made.
Yeah, and the little kid too, like the screeching, and like there again, it was like a very analog to the super tall person, the small skinny person too. It's like I felt like those two are meant to kind of match each other in appearance in a lot of ways.
Well, I like that. Well, I kind of dislike and like the fact that, like, the scene after she has sex with that guy and she's tied up or whatever, and he explains all the rules on how it works and everything. It doesn't feel like a big exposition, though, because it's just, like, he's like, this is how it works.
Yeah.
You're looking at it, like, this should freak you out. And then for, like, 45 minutes, I get that they have to do it to make it more like a movie. She's like, I don't really know if I believe that this is real. Like, it takes her a while to fully, like, understand that, like, oh, he was telling me the truth. Like, this is, like, how it works, all that. And then my favorite scene in the movie was after she finally realizes that, and she tries passing it off on that one guy, like, hey, you know the rules. Like Rick Astley says, you know the rules, and so do I. And, like, you know, he doesn't respect it. He just thought he got laid for free. And they all thought it was hunky-dory. Then his mom comes in and humps him to death.
Yeah.
And then my favorite scene was actually after that, when she's, like, super down, has no idea what she's going to do, and for some reason she goes to the beach, because apparently that's just where you have sex. And those three guys are on the boat.
And then she
ends up at the beach or
she
something.
ends up.
She
She
doesn't realize that
wakes
she's there,
up the next morning and then hears that she's at the beach. She didn't real like. I don't know if you've ever drove somewhere in the night and parked and, like, just took a nap and then woke up the next morning and realized, oh, I'm by a massive lake. I didn't have any idea.
Can't say
but
that.
I've done that before.
No, don't often do
I've
that.
never done that.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Well, like,
I don't want to be murdered.
She
in any
does.
case, it's at night. You may not realize that you're by a place like that. And come next morning, she hears some people. She takes a short walk through like a few trees, really. And it's like, oh, I'm on a beach. And, oh, there's 3 guys hanging out, being bros on this boat out here. Next opportunity to try and, like, fix this
Okay.
problem.
To me, like, that was like rock bottom. Like you said, you know, all was lost because of that guy's mom. You know, she saw it firsthand. She saw what it actually does to a human being. So then, like you said, she drives, and at that point, I mean, the decision was made. Like, she went out to the beach, and she was like, this is what I have to do. This is the only thing that's going to buy me time. Maybe it'll never come back for me if I make this decision. So
Okay, well, as I was saying before I got interrupted on my train of thought,
you don't have many of those.
apparently not. So, like, she goes and does that, and then, like, you don't see her do it. You just know that it's implied because it cuts to a scene right after that where, like, after she sees them, where she's, like, looks really disheveled. She's, like, still wet from the beach, and her eyes just look like she is just gone at that point. So I like when a director respects your intelligence. Like, you know what she did. You know why she did it. So just see if it works at that point. And obviously it didn't.
All things considered on that, it didn't last very long. Like, that thing clearly got the first one
Those
because,
guys
like,
had no chance.
I guess it's never so much that it's like if you participate in an orgy, everybody gets it. It's just, I guess, the first person. Because, I mean...
You hope that she got on that boat and she was like, which one of you guys is the most promiscuous?
Right, which one of you guys is most likely to get... Yeah, like...
Because, like, I mean, with what you said earlier, it wouldn't have made sense for her to do that with all 3, just the first one. And then it would have just been...
I still think that's so odd, though. If you're those 3 guys... Like, I don't care who you are, if you're the horniest guy out there. If you're just out there with your 3 bro friends, like, fishing or something, and this really beautiful woman comes up and is like, do you all want to bang me? I'm like, yeah, you're
She's like a
beautiful,
mermaid
but this
at that
is
point.
weird. No!
I feel like I know plenty of dudes who would take the bait. Like,
Maybe they were drunk.
I don't know.
They were definitely
yeah,
drunk.
they were... I mean, they
Maybe.
look like frat dudes. They're perpetually drunk at all times. So,
Still, that still blows my mind.
Yeah. That,
Yeah.
There's obviously something fishy about the situation, guys. I don't care how horny you are.
She's a mermaid. I mean, she
Yeah.
literally swam up out of
Right.
the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we get into qualms? Anything that stayed around for too long?
Yes and no. So, well, yes, we get into the segment. Yes and no. This is kind of like my qualm that I'm, like, touch and go on. The tone towards the later end of the movie is both... It's both fun, but it's also a little bit, like, extra with it. Like... I like that in one sense this movie is not afraid to like have a little bit of fun with itself, knowing that it's like, okay, we do have a thing that is by all means like a paranormal demon but in human form. So they're sitting here like throwing blankets over it, blasting it and stuff like that.
Blasting it.
Right, while I'm like
With the kid shooting, just
right.
And then the girl
shooting
gets
the girl.
shot.
And I'm like, oh my god, this guy's terrible. Shoots the girl.
And he still keeps shooting in
Yeah.
their direction.
And this is the same guy who shoots into the pool of water trying to kill the thing on the later part of it. Right, so
You know what
there's...
this gun is real quick?
What?
It's Weathering with You gun.
Oh my god.
Could have never been in there, and it would have been better off.
Yeah, it's arguably better without, right? And that's kind of like this is
So
about...
stupid. And they're in college.
Yeah.
They're in college.
This is really my biggest qualm
So
with it, is
dumb.
when they start having this fight back. Like, not... Everything else, like the Home Alone setup and everything like that, I was like, all right, this is a well thought out, like, all right, cool. You guys have a... I mean, for, like, you guys, this is as good as you guys could probably come up with. But then they haven't, thank God, and then that part adds just a little bit of too much extra for me. I like that part. I'm like, all right, this feels a little silly at this point, even for the movie, who's being a little tongue-in-cheek and letting them have like this whole like, we'll combat it, and they're just doing fucking terribly at it. Like, the thing is just tossing the electronics into the water, and
Which
it's like,
was their plan all along for it.
Yeah, we're like-
It's like they found it out, or this thing found it out, and then just used it against them, and it
Well,
still
I
didn't
think
work.
like when he threw it, it was unplugging from the wall.
yeah.
Maybe.
Plus,
Like I think their
They
plan.
they had
throwing
mentioned that there wasn't
far.
enough voltage in the plugins to be shocking like the whole pool.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, yeah, it's getting
He
jolted.
got her
off the
pretty
wall.
good with that anvil.
Bro,
Yes,
dude,
he did.
Or anvil iron.
Yeah, he
I don't know,
nails her.
man. That thing was throwing buckets at her. That
Get this
was
thing in the
bad.
Throwing, like
NFL, dude.
television.
Yeah.
Like picture tube television,
Yeah.
not flat screen.
And those things are heavy. Like, yeah, get this guy a fucking NFL deal. Put him on the Seahawks. He's chucking balls.
They
You
won't
just see
even
the ball
him.
floating.
Yeah.
And it launches down. Like, I think there is some fun to be had on it, but like the tail end when it starts getting a little bit too much into it, and just really those like couple scenes with the guns, I'm just like, all right, this is kind of being a little too
Stupid
much.
gun.
Yeah, I don't know. That's really my only.
My
gripe with
biggest
it.
qualm with this is that stupid meek boy, the one that was shooting,
Oh, the
Oh,
beta cut guy.
yeah.
deciding that he's
Beta
going to
McCuck.
sleep with the girl
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how stupid are you?
he's great in other movies.
He's so horny.
like,
Peter
how...
Gilchrist?
He is
Yeah.
so horny.
good.
He's just like, there's just like semen coming out of his ass. He's like, why didn't you let me sleep with you instead of that other guy?
It's kind of a funny story. Great.
So good.
It was... That
No, well,
The kid Paul.
like, it,
Yeah.
Oh, Paul.
I guess it makes sense. I don't know. I feel like that's a very short-sighted decision that he
Hey
made.
man, you love
And
who you
maybe
love.
that's- and, you know, maybe that's the allegoricalness of it. It's like, you know, some stupid kid's like, I know she's got an STD. It's okay, I care about her. It'll be fine. I can have it too. It's like, you are not thinking far ahead.
We'll die
enough
together.
at all.
We'll just live in a house where that thing is constantly chasing us. Well, guess it's time to move, honey. Like,
yeah.
So you just hated Paul overall?
Oh, Paul sucked.
Paul kind of sucked. Like, he kind of sucked. Like, in this movie, he kind of sucked.
I think that Paul was the only thing that really brought it back down to the level, though. Like, I'm not saying that his actions
I'm
and
with
his
these two.
decisions
You're
were
outvoted
great.
on this one.
Like,
He's
I
terrible.
I have a love-hate relationship with Paul in this movie. Like, where I think he's, like, this kind of, like, beta cuck dude. I think there are moments where,
Yes.
like, he's... But on the moments where he's not being, like, just this total simp, like, I think that he's being...
Total simp.
I think that he's a pretty good like dude just as like early banter, like when he's just hanging out with the sisters early on. And I want to start and say that this movie starts with a girl just farting, like it's like I got an idea, fart. It's left or whatever she says, and I'm like, this is a great movie.
I lost it.
This movie, yeah, there we go. This movie's gonna get an Oscar. But yeah, like his interaction, just hanging out with him and the not simping moments, I'm like, all right, yeah, he's a pretty cool dude. Like, all right, he's cool. Then it's like she's in the scene, he's like, it's not fair. Some other guy's getting to bang it, and I don't get to bang it. I want a demon after me.
Yeah.
Like-
I want to join that club.
Right. There's a little bit of weirdness there. Outside of that, yeah, I think he's okay though.
Mine definitely was the like I didn't understand the like background I guess of this because the sound makes it things like it's Stranger Things like back in the 80s 70s or whatever. And I was like, if you're going for that, all right, stick with that. Like,
There was
but
one thing.
everything else like
The timeline you couldn't really figure out where
No.
this movie's from. I read up on this, so
I did too, and like the director was like, "Oh, I want you to be uneasy." Like,
Yeah.
no, like pick a lane and stick in it.
Well, it was
I did not like
uneasy,
that.
but he wanted to also create the concept that it was like in a like that the whole movie is kind of shot necessarily not in a dream, but it wants to have that dream like effect because the idea came from like a dream he had. So whenever he was shooting this, he was like, I want it to be like very ambiguous when this timeline is, and in dreams it's like that. So
I don't care. After the movie,
Think
the
about-
director can say like it was all in a dream. I don't care what he says.
well, okay.
I care what is pictured on the screen.
Let's
and what
think
was,
about like
and
what
what was-
brought it to current time. Though. It was that little book thing. That
Oh,
they
the
all
little
had. That was it. The little clam thing.
Yeah, the clam
Yeah.
looking thing.
If
yeah.
it didn't have that, you wouldn't have any problem with this
What
movie.
Yeah.
is that?
It's like a little book. It was like a little ebook reader or something.
Yeah,
It was dumb.
It was like an ebook reader.
Okay,
that
then they
was
shouldn't have
also-
had that.
Yeah.
So
because,
if
like,
it didn't have it, would you have been a million times better off? Like that's just what I'm getting
But
at.
that
It's
doesn't.
like-
I mean, that's still like that right there is showing me that like they have some kind of technology that is not with the time that they are in. So that completely throws me off, and I do not like that.
Maybe it
It's
was
Detroit.
a beer. I mean, do we know what it?
No,
even
it definitely
was?
wasn't. It was like a Kindle.
Yeah.
It was pretty darn modern, but they said even it was in Detroit or around 8 Mile, like it was up in
Yeah.
the Michigan area.
Yeah.
Like,
This actually ties in with the 8 Mile universe.
Oh,
We
yeah,
don't-
yeah.
can we watch that next month?
Hell yeah.
And it's just like with you all and pathology, because I remember I hated
Jesus.
Gerald's argument so much on that. You were like, all right, I don't believe that this guy would like go up with those guys, so I'm signing off on the movie. Like
No, this is a totally
background.
different argument.
No, like the
You're
same kind
saying
of thing.
just
is like
one
I
bit
don't
of
like that.
technology doesn't fit in with the timeline of the rest
Yeah,
of the
because
movie.
it throws everything off for me.
But
And, like
what
the director
Yeah.
can say like, this is taking place in the dream of a giant in cloud space. Like I don't
Big
care.
fucking giants, that movie.
Sure.
BFG.
Yeah. Overall, like, sure, there's that little thing to it, but I think it's a silly thing to hang up that much energy into because it's just like, all right, this is ambiguously
for me.
80s, and then here's one thing that's a contrary,
Yeah,
and
I
that's
mean,
it. Like,
I will say it is
I don't
something
like
that definitely caught my attention every scene.
Yeah,
it was in.
like, it's definitely
every
like a
time I was
focal
trying
point.
to look at it, it's like, what is that?
why is there a clam with a screen? And I'm like, they're they're
Well,
using
you ever
landlines the
see
entire time.
Screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
they,
reading at
they
the
show
very
it in the
beginning.
very beginning of the movie, and it's like just
Yeah,
scrolling
I
through a
missed
book.
that.
And it was
Yeah.
clear. Like that's how I know
Yeah.
that it was like you said, it was like a Kindle or a yeah,
Okay.
or a Nook. But
Such a weird thing. Yeah, like it's a weird thing to add in, but it doesn't necessarily bother me so much just because I'm like, all right, timeline rise. Other than this one thing, it's roughly possibly 80s because
and it wasn't like oops, like the
Yeah.
Starbucks cupping game. It was like it was obviously
Right, like,
meant
it was-
to be in there.
it was
so
put in there for a
it's
reason.
whatever. Like it's
Yeah.
not a deterrent. But
Do I agree with the reason? Not necessarily. Like whatever,
Yeah.
it helps to know, but like in the sense of things, I was like, this is a weird thing to be in this movie.
Well,
But
it did bother me.
okay, well, it bothers Price, but whatever. I'm okay with it. All the rest of the movie is like landlines and cars, and everything feels very 80s-ish
Oh, very.
chic. Yeah, throughout the entire film.
You're
so I'm
riding
fine
around on
with that.
bikes.
Yeah. You know, we leaped into qualms, but there was one thing I wanted to add into the pros thing on the rewatch for this one, was that even in some of the scenes where they're not showing like the tension and the thriller building up, there's moments where you see somebody like following them, and it's a very pretty ambiguous if it's a thing or not. Like when they're at the first dude who bangs her school or whatever, right? And like they're in the car and out of focus, like it just shows, and there's like a person walking towards it as they're like doing a reverse shot, like they're in reverse and they're going forward. And I was just like, oh, that's fun. I see you, movie. That's a fun thing too.
Yeah.
And even the little conversation in the theater at the very beginning, whenever he's sitting there and it's like, oh, we could be whoever you want, blah blah blah, and he's like, oh, what about the girl in the yellow dress? She was like, what girl in the yellow dress? Oh shit! And then seeing that kind of play out, I was just like, oh, that's fun. Like that's so much fun on the rewatch with that, knowing that he's just like, ooh. But yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of qualms on this movie other than like some of the taking the tongue-in-cheek stuff a little bit too far, and like the tail end and letting them just be terrible with the gun. Like it was just more frustrating to watch than anything. Like him shooting the girls, and I'm like, how do you hit her out of all the stuff in front of you?
Yeah.
But to its credit, I don't really have a whole lot of qualms other than that, and like I guess the clam thing for Bryce. You guys like anything else sticks out?
It's a strength and a weakness for this. Like the tempo of the movie is the exact same from the beginning all the way to the very end.
Yes.
Like every single thing remains the exact same, whether it be the love interest from the guy to the girl. He stays the same, which I like, but it's also frustrating, right? The tempo from the beginning to the end, all the way up until the pool scene, is basically the exact same, where you're going to have some spooky, not scary, frightening-ish parts, but then you're going to have a lot of this 22 minutes of, let's lean back a little bit, let's relax, and then it's going to get tense again, like on the beach scene when the girl's just slowly walking up and they're just doing pan shots of their faces, talking like no. So it's
Then the hair.
it's almost like frustrating, but I enjoy that they kept with that the entire movie. It didn't Like we were talking about Hereditary a couple weeks ago. Like it didn't give you
Hereditary saved all of its for like
an hour and 40 minutes of build up for 21 minutes worth, not even probably, of crazy scary stuff. So like I said, it could be frustrating, but I also liked that part. So
yeah, I'm trying to figure out if it's better or worse for the film. And I think it's just, I mean, again, it's different but works, which is a lot of what I'll use to describe this movie and, like, the horror scene of it. But it's weird because I feel like the only moments where it ever gets, like, holy shit's level of scary is, like, when it's in her house for the first time and it's doing all of that stuff. Yeah. And you know a lot less. But in the later parts of the film, it goes high, or it goes up, but it doesn't go, like, extravagantly high. And there's never moments where I'm like, I am dying of fear, please just kill this thing or show the thing or do something. It doesn't, like... It never peaks on being too much into it, and it goes, like, it's very ebbs and flows.
I feel like tempo absolutely is kind of an issue for me, because I feel like this movie ends feeling much as it began, and feeling as though, like, this is definitely just walking straight into the next movie. Mm-hmm. The only other thing I'll say, too, though, as far as, like, the scariness... Mm-hmm. The monster is no longer scary when you're having a big fight scene with it, and you now know everything about it. It's a very manageable thing. You can throw a blanket on it to know where it is and shoot at it. Like,
and you can't necessarily kill it.
A threat.
Yeah.
Is it still a threat? Yes. Does it feel threatening? No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for them, they weren't a part of it. Like, it was threatening mainly for her, but like you said, like, unless you're part of this whole scheme, you're not, I don't know.
Well, unless you're, like, it just decides to punch you across the room.
Yeah,
like sometimes
it gives you a laceration.
If you try and get in its way, it'll get you.
Yeah.
All right, Fat Thin?
Yeah, Fat Thin. Nathan. Fat Thin. Perfectly fit.
I guess I would call this one thin, but to say
hour
exactly,
40, by the way, hour 40.
To say exactly what I would want to add, I don't know. Like, I don't know what more I wanted from this movie, but it did leave me feeling as though it's something where I should probably watch the next one to maybe get something maybe more interesting happening. I don't know. There is a second one, correct?
To date, I don't think there is a second one.
Is there not?
They said that they were going to make a sequel, but then they just never got around to it.
I could have swore when I was looking this up that I saw It Follows 2.
I would have 100% watched it, but no, it's not out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll double check.
I have no idea who the director
it certainly feels like there would be.
Yeah, it's a good premise.
All right, well, I'm just going with fit because I didn't really, like, it's not, like, a big credit for it. Like, a lot of times when I say fit, I'll be like, it just felt perfect. Like, this one, like, it didn't feel short, it didn't feel long. It was just where it needed to be for me. I can't think of anything I'd add or cut from it, so it's fit.
Yeah, I would say it's fit, even if it's more on a little bit of the lean side. I think for me, I would it's not so much that I would add a whole bunch or subtract a little bit much. It would just kind of balance things out a little bit. For me, I think I would like a little bit more, at least towards the end, a little less of the we're having fun. It's in a like Home Alone killing it moment in this like.
They were having fun.
Well,
they were definitely going through something.
Yeah, they were going.
A girl got shot.
Yeah.
But they didn't even care.
Hey, they went into the 8 Mile area. She knew what she was signing up.
Yeah, after like they all went to Hot Girl. We're like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Right. And the other girls in the back like,
"I'm bleeding."
Peter Griffin.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not so much that I would balance and take all of that away and add any more of the teen drama stuff into it. I would just make it I don't know. I guess I would give it more time where there was more. It was a threat, like, moments with it. And I think that it has a healthy amount, but even just one more, like, little segment of it just being like that, and a little less on the, okay, now let's take it to a pool, throw a blanket over it, and shoot our friends. Like, yeah, I don't know, a little less of that, a little bit more of the threatening side. I think it would have been, like, just perfect for balancing out how much, like, horror and scare we actually get into this movie. But all things considered, I think runtime matches perfectly. It's really good, and that part, it doesn't go over, and I definitely don't think that it too thin on that part, so
I'm gonna go thin, just a little bit thin. I would have liked if they would have flushed out the mom a little bit more. When we were talking about like tropes and weird things that this horror movie does, like she never ever comes into frame. Hardly ever comes into frame. They show her passed out. They show her just like asleep. They show that she's never in the movie. But little things like that, Keir Gilchrist, the Paul character,
Wait, is that his actor's name?
Yeah.
Keir Gilchrist.
Yeah.
Why on earth did you go to the links to know his name?
He's in a lot of indie
He's in
teen
so
dramas.
many good
Yeah,
movies.
he's in a lot of good movies.
He's in Atypical.
Yeah.
I thought his actor's name was just Soy Boy McBetacuck.
Nah, just in this film. He's great in...
Friendzone McNallum fucked is my favorite name for him.
I mean, he gets laid twice in the span of like a day.
Yeah.
So, actually, I guess 3
Joke's
times.
on
'cause
you,
there was
Bryce.
There was
Yeah.
there was two prostitutes.
Did you see the next two that he...
He's getting
He's just
laid.
knocking it out, man. I
Those
mean,
three
anyways.
boat guys should have been there too to get laid.
If I could have added anything to it, it might be a little bit more character flush out, like the friends, maybe, or the little sister. Like she was a really good character for the 4 minutes that she was on the screen, and she actually had dialogue. But yeah, I mean, it was very close to being fit. I wouldn't have wanted much more, just a little bit then. So
Fair.
Scores?
Normally we have a weird new segment in here, but I'm not doing it. So we're
What?
just got score.
Oh, okay.
You're supposed to be doing
It is
this.
viewer
If you don't
choice,
wanna,
so.
That's fine.
Viewer choice.
Mason, you got one that you could come up with for this?
Nope. So on scores on this one,
replace the gun with any object.
dildo.
bigger dildo.
More condoms?
No, condoms wouldn't help in this one.
I don't know, man.
Just like a human-sized condom. Yeah, that's what you
Wow.
You put it on the monster,
purifies
and it
it.
stops it. It actually is like it's like a demon trap or something.
No, they did the whole Home Alone thing. They should have had some water and flour set up.
Oh yeah.
That would have been perfect.
Yeah.
The blanket falls off unless
Yeah.
this guy falls into the water.
Well, he goes in the
Maybe
water, then he washes
it
it
goes
off.
away, but-
Yeah.
Stick him with honey. It'll never come off.
You just tar it and
Tar
put
and
feathers on
feather.
it.
Just go for the classic, you
Yeah.
know?
Make it shock itself on the dryer, and then so you can see its transparent skeleton.
So
Alright.
if he gets tarred and feathered
Oh
and
my
then changes
goodness.
shape, does it go
Yeah, it's
away or
tarred
is he
and
still
feathered.
tarred and feathered?
Totally tar and feathered.
Yeah, still tar.
Frankenstein, tar and feathered.
Tar and feather.
I mean, honestly, you would think at some point in the history of this monster that had happened to it.
Yeah, like
already.
somebody was like,
So it
nah.
should just be walking around with like bits and pieces of stuff still on it.
Do you think it showers in between? Like,
I mean, it must. It's got to do something to get that stuff
I mean,
off,
it just
right?
walks in the houses via the window.
This isn't
so-
the only time somebody thought, hey, it's like a spooky ghost. Let's
Yeah.
put something on it so we see it, right?
This is a
true.
terrible conversation.
I like that this conversation exists.
Can we go to scores?
Nathan, lead the way, buddy.
I mean, this movie was all right.
Very
I'm
in-depth.
not like a big fan of it. It had a couple of good moments. The hallway scene with him like sneaking up behind,
God.
totally unexpected, very good. Much the rest of it, I'm a little more mediocre on, so I'm only gonna give it about a 6.5. It's above average, but it's not knocking it out of the park for me.
Barely above average for me. I'm going probably 5.5 on it. Again, I like that it's kind of ambiguous about it, what it is, but like even them talking about like what the monster does, how it's transferred and stuff, I'm still kind of fuzzy on, which I don't really like because I feel like that's something I should understand after watching this movie. I enjoyed kind of that the character stayed stagnant because I don't think that every movie has to have like a character arc for every character. So I kind of like that they stayed the same, but I do really judge a movie by its climax. Again, earlier this season we talked about Ride Your
Pun
Wave.
intended.
I was like, Ride Your
Somebody's
Wave, I
sexual
wanted to give
innuendos.
a 10, but I knocked down like a whole 1.5 or something because of the climax. And this climax did not do this movie favors. I'm with Dylan in the fact that like I like that they like set up this kind of trap, but it went on way too long. Like, it definitely shouldn't have. And like Nathan said, like, it shows that you can kind of fight it, which I don't really like. Like, if it's going to be so, like, lame in the fact that it just walks at you, like, it needs to be an unstoppable force that, like, you can't do anything about it. Like, it's coming for you no matter what. You can be in the water, you can be in an airplane, you can do whatever. But, like, the fact, like, you could put, like, a bed sheet over it and shoot it, and it, like, is down for a little while, but it will eventually come back. Kind of lame in my opinion.
That thing went into hyper gear in the water, man.
Mhm.
As soon as that thing touched
Yeah.
the water, that thing had her.
That thing was
It
in.
was quick
Yeah.
in there.
That
Yeah,
was-
that was something that felt kind of off.
That was like phase 10 of bad mistakes.
Yeah.
Like,
You know,
her being in there to begin with.
I think
but-
if there's like this unspoken like horror rule to it, if it's not like in your visuals, that it is moving much faster. Because there are times where it's like halfway across the city that we think, and then it's just like, oh, that night,
Yeah, well, it's just the uncertainty of it, which is why that pool scene led on for so long. You thought that she was going to get pruny in there because they just kept panning on the characters, just like lounging out, like
Girl
waiting
just
for
loves
Well,
something.
and
too.
they did do an interesting thing shot-wise there, where for quite a while they didn't show you where it was and just had her like pointing at it, and you were just in the shoes of everybody else in that room.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. And it like almost made you frustrated. It's like, come on,
Oh, yeah.
show us where it is.
Right.
Like we've
One of
been
the
able to see it the whole time
One of the
along with
descriptive
her.
words of this movie is frustrating. Like it's it's a good thing in my opinion. I mean, not a lot of
Last thing I'll say
do it.
before I'm done is that this poor actress, I don't like. She was like declothed most of the movie. I can't imagine what she had to go through offset like to maintain like that kind of body, because you know like a lot of like actors and actresses before they have like a topless scene or something, like they have to go through like not drink water for a while or something. And this poor girl didn't have her shirt on most of the movie. She was in a bikini, bra, something like that. So props off to her. Feel sorry for her.
Yeah, she's an actress. She got work. Mason, scenes.
Yeah, 8, flat 8. I think that this movie, for what it is, it does it pretty darn well. I have suggested this movie to people, like whether they work with them or people that say that they really like scary stuff, and the return on it is so wishy-washy. Like some people,
But he still
it's a
keeps
lot
doing
like
it.
this, where
Yeah.
like yeah, it was kind of a cool concept, but damn, like what else? You know, like it was kind of slow, or it was this. Some people really like it. This is not for everybody. But this
Nope.
type movie, like this thing was on Netflix for forever. So if you put
God,
this
so
movie
long.
on, you know, just unknowingly, you might not end up liking it. But I don't know if you're invested in it. This movie too, as soon as I watched it, I kind of had the same sort of debate with myself, and I was sitting there like trying to put myself in her shoes. Like, how can you get rid of this thing? Like, what if you travel abroad, and then like you sleep with someone, right? Like that's probably, but that costs a ton of money. What if you would have to have like different homes? Like you would have to be a traveling person for your job, even though she was only in college. Like I put way too much thought into this movie afterwards, just because it makes you think so much.
Well, my thought with it is more of like the moral question of should you even be
Bruh, I'm-
passing that along?
I am done.
And that's like the
Send
moral
it.
No,
question.
bye. Morality be
Send
gone.
it.
That's like the moral question of like, I guess what it's an allegory to, which is STDs. Is like it's irresponsible to
Yeah.
be spreading something like that,
And she was
and you
very
know
much.
that you're putting a burden on somebody else if they get whatever it is from you.
Yeah. And she, for the most of the movie, did not do that at all. Like, it
Yeah.
was ground zero, like I said, rock bottom. And finally, she was just like, all right, I've done everything else, or I feel like I've done everything else. But yeah, this movie's an 8. It's very slow, but it's really good for me. I don't know. I like it. It's an indie movie, too.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bryce.
Yeah, well, I agree. Like you focus more on like the idea being a novel idea, and I think it is in the horrorscape as well. But with me, it's the execution of it that left a lot to be desired. Because I agree that the idea is neat, which is why I put it above average.
Yeah.
And this is where I'll lean into my score with saying I'm actually with Mason. I'm on an 8 on this one. I almost went down to a 7.5 on the rewatch just because I think the tempo does kind of lose its steam pretty much after it goes into her house for the first time. But just some of the little extra stuff I noticed on the rewatch, seeing like the extra characters in the back walking and they don't address it, they just leave it to be. I think this movie in horrorverse and as a movie as a whole does so much to just not to be the expected typical one, and I fucking love that about this movie. I love that it's like the reveal is ongoing and it still feels threatening for about 95% of the movie, give or take like a pool scene. And that the tempo is touch and go, which I love hate because I'm so used to just being like once it ramps, and then we're in it. But this one was we're ramping and we're slowing down. We're ramping, but I'm like, I don't hate the down parts. It's like I hate it because it's not being extra spooky. But at the same time, I'm like, the little teen drama banter stuff, I'm like, this is a little fun. And more than anything, after this movie, this is a movie where we just sat around, and even during this thing, we've just been discussing, well, I don't know, maybe we'd get around it this way or doing this. And I just like the banter that it creates from it. And I'm like, this is a fun enough movie that there's something worth discussing. And in horror, that is so far and few between for those hits that it's like, I just love that about it. It just excels in doing things in the horror buff that most other horror movies don't. Almost all of them flop where this one succeeds. And I gotta praise it for that much. Plus, it hangs dong.
It hangs a lot of things.
It hangs A lot of
droopy
things.
boobs,
Yeah,
too.
droopy boobs, dong.
I think they really leaned in on that in her house part, like that
Like the
original
girl.
in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like that was it's almost like they spent. By the way, the budget for this movie, anybody want to guess?
Like 3 million or something. It was
guesses?
something super tiny.
It's gotta be
Okay.
low like
2
that.
million.
There it is. I was
And
one
they
of
made at least like 20 million. So
Yeah.
crazy idea, slow movie, it works.
Crazy profit, crazy indie, crazy good stuff. Go check it on Netflix 2 years ago. Now it's on like, I don't fucking
What
know.
cost money?
Peacock.
It was on Peacock.
Peacock. It's on
With
Peacock.
terrible ads.
I'm so sorry.
The ads probably didn't
Bryce,
do
I
it
know
any
you
favors.
love Peacock and you're really leaning in on
Yeah.
Peacock, but
What?
that whole app sucks.
Yeah, that app sucks,
So
Bryce.
I have
bad.
never.
I know, Price
been
put
able to-
money into the stocks
Base is
for Peacock.
deflected because he was the one saying something
I don't know
about how
what you're talking
Peacock
about.
is
Peacock is
gonna be
awful.
the new thing.
NBC, fix it. I don't need ads. You're not Hulu. Hulu doesn't even do ads in the middle of the movies.
No,
No.
they don't. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
Hulu's
right.
not smart enough to do that.
You're NBC. You got tons of money.
Yeah.
By the way, Birdemic shows its hand early.
I don't even remember that film.
No, I forget it every
It's not a
minute.
movie.
It's not a movie.
You praised this movie for it.
We get to pick our end of the month
Yep.
since we did a reverse order.
Just like the period in this movie, we're going to go ahead and wrap up and cover what the movies were. So, movies were The Thing, 2011.
Wow, that feels forever ago.
I know.
Yeah,
Birdemic.
feels like yesterday.
It Follows, obviously. Hereditary.
Hereditary.
That's right. Mason, I guess we'll just yo-yo back this one.
Yeah. Since I can't pick Hereditary, I do think that It Follows is definitely my pick. I think that it's. I mean, The Thing was cool. I liked Mary Elizabeth Winstead. That was a nice touch.
I
but
know she is God in that movie.
Yeah, she's talented and skilled.
Yeah.
So awful.
But I don't know. I've always had a soft spot for It Follows. That's my movie pick.
Skipped over.
So let's see if it's
Hurry up and pick Birdemic.
if it's between
I can't.
if it's between Hereditary and The Thing.
Oh come on. Hey, how you doing?
There was no other movies. There was no other
It's really
movies.
only
that
those two movies.
Yeah.
The other
we
one
didn't-
wasn't a movie. The other one was like a student project.
That was a YouTube
Hey,
clip.
come on, man. I'm still here.
Yeah, if it's just those two, there's nothing else that could possibly be chosen. I think I gotta go with Hereditary. Yeah, the horror stuff on this one is pretty gnarly, and The Thing has Mary Elizabeth Winstead, which wants me to just give it its vote for that. But
It's a solid strength.
and Joel Edgerton.
Yeah.
So
Man,
was
Warrior
kinda
was
in
such a
there,
good
wasn't
movie.
yeah, but once The Thing kind of shows its hand, so to speak, in the transforming monster girl part, from that point forward, it just kind of does more of that, and it doesn't get any better lore-wise for the movie, because it's like telling you stuff that I didn't want to know about it.
Hey, man.
Well, Hereditary, does kind of the same thing for like the last 10 minutes of it, but up until that point, that's when they ramp up all the horror, and it really feels spooky.
They're opposite. So The Thing is really good until the alien spaceship, which is the last 10 minutes,
Right.
and then Hereditary
Yeah.
is like
Total
nothing
flip.
until the last 10 minutes.
Right. I would say overall, though, just like the peaks in Hereditary are better than the peaks in The Thing. So, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead didn't hang dong in that movie. So, I'll give it to Hereditary for this month.
Because Toni Collette did.
Yeah.
If you could pick your own movie, I would unironically pick Birdemic because
Shut
like,
up,
Crazy,
Bryce.
I just,
dude.
like,
You're fucking nuts.
because
Throw a
I just like
potato
I
at this
think
shit.
it's hilarious. Like I'm not picking it because it's like a good movie. I think it's really funny. And,
Well, in Spooky
I would
Month,
much
the
rather watch
categories for which should be giving
well,
points, you
it
should not be
doesn't-
going to
it does-
hilarious.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You can't pick your own movie anyway.
Thank God.
I'm definitely not picking The Thing. It would be really. It's actually really close between Hereditary and It Follows for me, but It Follows kind of left a sour taste on my tongue, whereas Hereditary did too, though.
I was about to say, but you also
Because-
say the exact same thing.
Yeah,
It was
because
like-
the end of
Yeah.
Hereditary was like super scary when he jumps out the window, and then you see his mom floating into the treehouse, and then there's that goofy scene where they're just sitting in a regular treehouse doing all that. So
So
I don't know.
which
I think
ending's
both-
more
Can
annoying
I-
for you, then?
Both movies don't want you to feel good after. It's Ari
Yeah.
Aster, and then it's like this. It follows like you're obviously never
The
gonna get rid
random
of it.
indie, right? Yeah.
So
Which movie made was worse for the ending? I guess is just like the criteria at this point. Then
it's a bad way to
Oh
choose
man,
it. But
it's honestly really tough because Hereditary had that high moment and then immediately crashed. It Follows kind of crashed like when they got into the pool scene. I'd have to say Hereditary still had the worst ending in my opinion, so I'll have to go with It Follows. I
Nice.
think
hey, that's
Nice.
that's just a consolation one.
and Nathan balancing it out with Birdemic.
Nope, not after that. I've been reminded.
Upset the cats, dogs, everything within a 5-mile radius.
I would love to have seen Griff during that part. I bet he was
so mad. What the fuck, Dad?
Where's the cat?
What's in this house?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Hereditary. I like that kind of spooky horror stuff. I had a lot of qualms with just the pacing of it and how long it took, and how it does stay very. As far as the whole tipping your hand, that movie barely
did it.
Barely does it. Just enough to where you have to watch this thing twice.
Yeah, you have to pay attention.
Pick up on things.
In the last 15 minutes, it gets everything in its hand and just starts throwing it at you.
Yeah,
at lightning
It's Gambit,
speed.
and it's just slicing.
Yeah, at that point it's just like, here's all the things I was doing. So this is what's been happening the whole time.
And they're exploding.
Yeah.
Okay, I can break this tie break because I'm actually going to go with Hereditary. Y'all are going to get mad, but you saw, I think about Hereditary a
Why
bit
does he
more.
get to break tie breaks?
It's legal. I don't know.
Because
I don't know.
because I think about it a
It's
bit
funny
more.
'cause
In my
both our
review, I
movies
said how
are
much
right.
I like the
both.
scene where that kid, after his sister's head gets knocked off. The acting in that movie really is superb as compared to It Follows, where it feels like you got some teenagers on the street to do it who could act a little bit better.
Convinced that they did.
Well, I mean, if we
Yeah.
got teenagers off the street to act, that would be Birdemic.
Yeah, sure.
We watched a movie.
Yeah, we
Ah,
watched
fair.
that.
We watched a
No,
small documentary
Don't
about
don't knock the actors in It
Yeah.
Follows that hard.
Yeah.
They did a solid job.
Right. Plus, we're also
But
comparing.
Hereditary's actors did.
Ari,
and
yeah,
budgets
Ari asked
and
for full,
everything.
huge,
Yeah.
budget thing versus an indie film on that. It's
Yeah.
kind of hard to use acting as the comparing term for it too.
Well, it is for me because I enjoyed the movie more for that. Because
Okay.
I'll remember that kid's face after he does that, and then the mom scream after she goes out there.
Well, it's just star-studded. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
it's
Toni
got
Collette is
a
actually an
ton
actress.
of people.
I've
that-
only seen her in Knives Out. I've never seen any of the other
Knives
people.
Out. She's been in a couple other dark comedy movies and stuff like that. She's more in she's in more weird niche films as far as that stuff goes. She actually doesn't like horror, but Ari
Alex Wolff is Nat Wolff's brother, and Nat Wolff is in a lot of teen dramas too.
It's not Wolf and the Naked Brothers band.
It's 2 Fs.
Yeah,
Oh,
2 Fs.
my bad.
Anyways, by the way, Nathan, do you have your next movie pick by any chance?
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was
I'm just
asking.
glad that you said yes.
I asked him before this. I was like, your pick's coming up. He's like, no, I don't. I said, what are you going to pick? He's like, I got one ready for you all. So we have no idea what this
Oh, I
is
know what
gonna
it
be.
is. I know it's a space movie. It's the one. It's the
Yeah,
trailer. It's the truckers.
Yeah.
What?
You
Yes.
got it. You got it, man.
Oh,
Space
man.
truckers.
Space
Space Truckers?
It took me a minute.
I have no idea what this is.
Oh,
The trailer
it's,
looks superb.
So it's got the main villain from Waterworld as the lead
Okay,
character,
okay.
and he is a truck driver in space, and he's hauling square pigs, or at least that's what he's doing at the beginning.
Japanese watermelon.
Yeah.
The
I think they're
watermelons.
square pigs from Mars or something like that.
I am ready
I
for
don't know.
this.
Oh,
I am ready
It's
for this.
entertaining.
I can't
it's
wait.
It's very much a B space movie.
Yeah.
So just be ready.
It sounds like your same tone you use for Lawnmower Man.
No,
No.
no, Lawnmower Man
Please
was
don't.
actually bad. This had us laughing a lot.
Good.
It was very entertaining.
This is back to Nathan's roots,
Yeah.
gentlemen.
Yes,
Bad
it is.
movies that are meant to not be enjoyed, but if you do enjoy it, you're sick in the head, just like Nathan is.
Yep.
That's the categories he goes for in this one. So make sure to tune in next week for Space Truckers.
We don't know about it either. You might have to scroll real
Yeah.
far down your Google search to find it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it might be a little tricky to come up with.
There's going to be 2 things in YouTube's search engine for Space Truckers. The trailer for this movie and our review of it, and nobody else has covered
Yeah,
those things.
that's
About right.
So I guess there's that going for us. Make sure to tune in next week for Space Truckers. If you like the content that we're putting out, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We see you guys, and some of you guys we don't see. Who are you?
Come out of the shadows.
Yeah. Hit us in the comments below. Tell us what you think. Do you think it's weird that Price just gets to be the tiebreaker person on this one all of a sudden? We don't get it either. Like this video if you thought this was fun banter. Dislike this video if you dislike the fact that Price just got to be the tiebreaker person for no reason. We don't get it either. That's our show, everybody. Make sure to hit that bell so you know when this video comes up, because we never do. So see you next week. Thank you for tuning in for Spooky Month.
I actually totally like that it was between It Follows and Hereditary, though, because, those are ours and we both like them.
Yeah.
Like you like yours.
Yeah, I was like, I
all-
like Hereditary. I like it.